Thank you for joining us in the Divorce by Rose Club here on Clubhouse. We're super excited to have you here with us today as we talk about the 5 key strategies to avoiding a nasty divorce. And I know it sounds so weird to talk about strategies and divorce, but I can tell you that through my personal experience, the fact that I didn't have any strategies and the fact that I kind of went blind and cold and didn't really have anything planned out or mapped out. I walked into a whole load of trial and errors that ended up costing me about $80,000 in legal fees, about 10 years of a nasty divorce, looping around in circles and circles and circles, never really quite understanding what on earth was going on. So through my experience, after many years of ups and downs and ins and outs and stress on my health, on my body, on my mind, mentally, I finally started to understand what divorce is all about. Now, often when we're going into divorce, we think it's about, well, I don't want to be married to you, and so you go your way, I go my way, and then let's live happily ever after. And ultimately, that's what we want to do. But in reality, in the day-to-day of trying to figure out how you're going to separate yourselves and no longer be a couple, it's very hard to figure out all the details that are the most important to think about from the very beginning. And I learned these lessons the hard way. And so you're going to hear a little bit about my experiences. I'm going to share with you the 5 key strategies. And then we're going to listen to the thoughts and perspectives and the wisdom of the other coaches from Divorce by Rose, who are also going to be here to share their thoughts and perspectives. So you're going to get different ideas and different opinions and different ways of looking at things from various people. At the end of the day, what you should be doing is deciding what resonates with you the most, okay? And whatever it is that resonated with you the most, you adopt into your life. So just to give you a little background, we're just going to give a little bit of information on each area because we can't go deep into the whole explanation of it in a short amount of time. But you will have access to it if you would like to have free access to this course that we created in the Divorce by Rose community. All you need to do is send me a message with DBR, and I'm going to send you free access to the app. And I'm going to throw in free access to this course where we have a bunch of videos from myself and the coaches who go into dive deeper into details into each one of these areas. So what you're essentially getting is a lot of combined experiences all in one in short bite-sized videos to help you move forward with your life. So just to have a quick reminder, Divorce by Rose community app is a place for parents to come in and engage with one another anonymously. This is one of the most important things that I wish I had 10 years ago when I was separating or divorcing, is that my only option was to go on Facebook or go publicly, but I didn't want to be noticed, and I didn't want my mother-in-law to find out, and I didn't want my ex to find out what I was writing. And especially Americans, you have to be very careful because you tend to like to sue each other very easily. And suing each other for libel and defamation is definitely something that you guys are famous for. So in Divorce by Rose, no one will know you, no one will recognize you. And so now what we're seeing is very real, raw, and authentic conversations by parents from around the world who are helping each other, offering guidance and direction. And so you're surrounding yourself with people who are also in the same situation as you, who want answers, who want to figure out why things are not working out, who want to find answers to what is pending on their mind and causing this worry and anxiety. Because a lot of times we think we're alone. We think we're the only ones in the world who have this problem. We think we're the only ones who are going through this situation. And I'll tell you, after being a divorce coach for, 6 years now, I can tell you that no story is so unique. I have heard it many times in many different versions. And so it makes you feel much more comfortable knowing that you have someone to talk to who's neutral, who has no vested interest in your outcome, and who can provide you guidance and direction as to what actually really works. Now, the second most beautiful part of the Divorce by Rose community is that you have access to dozens of coaches, experts, and professionals who are there to help you plant new seeds of thought in your mind, get you looking at things a little bit differently. Because when we're going through divorce, one thing that we're doing the most is that we are focusing everything on our emotions. And this is actually the first strategy. The first strategy is that you got to keep your emotions out of the equation. And I know it's very hard to do, and I know how complicated it could be, but we are highly emotional people. So we have a tendency to draw in all of our emotions in our decisions. We have a tendency to draw in everything that we think we should do. And the judge is going to predict this, and he's definitely going to say that, and this is going to be the outcome I have. Suddenly we have crystal balls and we can predict what's going to happen. At the end of the day, we cannot predict. You should not be using your emotions in order to determine what you should be doing. What is your next step? What is your course of action? Because, and this is strategy number 2, when you make a decision based out of desperation, denial, or despair, you will with 100% certainty come back and regret it. This is what I call the 4 Ds of divorce. So when you make a decision based out of desperation, denial, or despair, you will with 100% certainty come back and regret it. And when you are overly emotional, I guarantee you're going to make a decision based on one of those 4 Ds. I did it, and many other people have done it. This is why it's super important to think logically and methodically. And it's not something that us as human beings know how to do. It's not something that we're familiar with. It's not something that comes to us so easily because we're in a turmoil, we're in a life-changing situation, and we impose our fear in everything that is going on in our lives. And so one thing you have to do is detach yourself from the emotions when you're negotiating with the other parent. Detach yourself from the emotions when you're trying to think logically of something. Use your emotions and focus on your emotions on a separate occasion when you're not trying to negotiate, when you're not in front of the lawyers, when you're not in front of your spouse or ex. It's very important that you walk into your divorce thinking that this divorce is like a business arrangement. So if you were going into a business meeting and, let's suppose your boss says something that you don't like, are you going to scream and yell and go hysterical and get emotional and really be very immature in your reactions? Probably not. You have to apply the same thought process in your divorce process. Isn't that crazy? I know it sounds so weird because it's not something that we're used to doing, but if you go into your divorce situation, learning how to separate your own emotions versus logic, and where logic leads you to what should we do most logically that will help us today and in the future, versus an illogical decision, which is, well, I'm doing this and deciding this because you did X, Y, and Z in the past couple of years, and because I don't want you to be happy, and I want you to lose everything, and I want you to da 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 da. If you're thinking of, and here's a third strategy, if you're thinking of your decisions are coming from a place of ego, power, or money, where you're trying to have one up from your spouse, you're already walking into a trap because you're not going in logically. You are using all emotions. In order to be mature, in order to divorce with maturity, you need to keep thinking and keep in mind, is this decision based on desperation, denial, or despair? Does it seem like I'm being overly emotional? Or could it be that it's coming from ego, power, and money? I'm trying to get one on top of the other parent. I'm trying to win something in particular to make them lose so that they can suffer, so that I can feel better about myself if they do badly in life. If you're doing that and you're thinking that, you need to stop yourself immediately, catch yourself, and change your way you're thinking. Because, and here's strategy number 4. If you go into your divorce thinking of yesterday and what they did and how they did things and how angry you are and how frustrated, and you're not dealing with these heavy emotions, you're not going to be able to do what divorce is really supposed to be about. Divorce is about recreating your new life. This is your golden opportunity to reintroduce that old part of you that got lost along the way. Many of us throughout our marriage process ended up losing a piece of ourselves. We were busy raising a family, taking care of the house, working, being married, and whatever other responsibilities you had. In the midst of all this craziness and chaos of, getting everything organized and ready, we have the tendency to lose ourselves along the way. And this is a very popular theme and pattern among many parents who think to divorce. And the reason is because we don't realize and focus on ourselves on a regular basis. So it's like I always say, we don't know how to marry, and we certainly don't know how to divorce either. So we don't know how to marry the right person. We don't know how to stay married, and we certainly don't know how to divorce. So all along the way, we're following the patterns that don't work for families. It doesn't work, and it's not conducive to keeping a marriage alive. Now, sometimes a marriage needs to break down because there is abuse or domestic violence or something like that. Okay, but you still need to look at this divorce and say to yourself, you know what? This is not the end of the world. Maybe there's a sign here that I need to look at my life right now. Maybe this is an indication that I need to focus on me for a bit. Who am I? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to take my life? What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind in my divorce or in my marriage? What do I want to do with myself? And these are questions that we don't really think about. We think about divorce as the answer. We think of divorce as the solution to erase all the problems we have with the other parent, as if they're going to disappear because you no longer have to deal with someone who didn't take out the garbage. You no longer have to deal with someone who snores at night. You don't have to deal with your crazy in-laws anymore. And you're thinking that the grass is greener on the other side and life is going to be more blissful on the other side. I can tell you that from many people that I know who've gotten divorced, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to recreate that new life of yours so that that grass is greener on the other side. It's not going to be like an automatic thing just like that the second you decide to separate, life is going to be this beautiful party and it's going to be like full of sunshine and happiness and fun, and there's going to be no problems. You're going to have a whole new set of problems. But the only thing that will get you through all these problems, the only thing that's going to get you through to your end goal, your end destination, is that you actually know what that destination is. So if you don't even know where you want to be 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, if you don't know what kind of life you want to have down the road, you're never going to be looking at your end goal. You're never going to be working towards your end goal. You're just going to be struggling to survive day by day. So even if divorce was imposed on you, even if you were the one who decided to divorce, even if you're not even sure you want to divorce and you're sort of contemplating, what should I do with my life? Should I stay married? Should I get divorced? The first thing you need to do is look at yourself. And you look at, okay, I need to recreate myself. Something went wrong. Take some time and dive deeper into yourself and say, what are the things that haven't worked? Why did I get to the place that I'm at today? And then you look at, well, how do I get to where I want to be? So if I'm not happy today with this, how do I get myself there? And it's a really important conversation to have with yourself. Now, the last strategy is one that parents do not think about often enough. And I really want to stress the importance of understanding this, because just like I said, we don't know how to marry and we don't know how to divorce either. I'm going to say this: you don't know what you don't know until someone points it out to you. And this next strategy that I'm about to share with you is one of those things that I guarantee you probably never even thought about. Whether you're contemplating divorce, whether you're newly separated, whether you're deep into your divorce, it's probably something that takes you years and years and years to understand until you go, oh, that makes so much sense. I didn't think about that before. And this strategy is as follows. When you met, and I'm just going to give like a very generic story, sort of like fit it into your life based on, your own details. But let's just look at this from like a very general perspective. You met your spouse, you were boyfriend and girlfriend to start off with. Maybe you moved in together and then you got married or became common law. So now you had a change in your relationship. You went from boyfriend and girlfriend to moving in together to now getting married or being more committed to one another. When you decided to make that transition from boyfriend and girlfriend to husband and wife, I can imagine that there was a lot of changes and having to have a lot of flexibility and adapting to this new relationship, right? It's not like you go from boyfriend and girlfriend to husband and wife, that all of a sudden, everything is so peachy and easy. There's adjustments along the way, but you learned to, build yourselves together. You learned how to compromise and you learned how to make the relationship work, because at the end of the day, you all had the same goal. Both of your goals was, we want to get married, you want to have a family, we want to build a future together. And so whatever you did, you had that common goal. So then you're husband and wife. Then you became parents. So now you're mother and father. Okay. So now you had to adapt yourself once again to becoming mother and father. And that's a huge transition. That is a huge difference in your marriage. It's a huge difference in the way that you are and the way that you show up and all that. But you're still husband and wife mixed with mother and father. Now that you're thinking about getting divorced or you're newly divorced, you are no longer have this relationship. This relationship that is torn in half. It's like split completely in half. You have to imagine now that you're like in a boxing rink and you're like two opponents staring each other down and seeing who's going to take the first punch, or should we take the first punch, and you're staring each other down. So you've got the mother on one side and the father on the other side. And so now your entire relationship is, how do we do this? How do we make sure that we don't end up, beating each other up or destroying each other? Well, it starts off with the understanding that you are no longer having a relationship of husband and wife. You are now mother and father at opposite ends of this rink. Both of you have different opinions. Both of you live in different environments. Both of you have different goals in mind, and both of you have different perspectives on how you want to raise your children, because now it's about you being a solo parent. And parents don't understand that you need to remove this husband and wife portion from your relationship, and then nothing will be the same anymore, because now you're no longer having that attachment of husband and wife with mother and father. You've split that in half. And now the only half that you're focusing on is the half of mother and father. So you have to learn a whole new relationship, a whole new way of communicating with this other parent, a whole new way of adapting to your new life. So even if the other parent imposed divorce on you, don't think that it's automatically easy for them to go on with their lives and they're having this beautiful partying and having fun and everything is so blissful. It's still an adjustment. And you have to learn how to adjust to that. And we don't know how. And this is why we end up having so many nasty issues. And it's mostly delving from the fact that one of the two parents, if not both, don't know how to have this new relationship. They don't know how to show up. So you're acting like husband and wife, and the other one is feeling like, why are you acting like my husband? Why are you acting like my wife? That's not what we should be doing. And you're not realizing that you need to change your ways, but you just don't know how, because it's all you've gone used to. So in the midst of you trying to figure out this divorce process, in the midst of trying to figure out what's going to happen with the kids and your income and every other part of your life, you're trying to figure out, who am I? And not only who am I, what's my relationship with the other parent now? What do we do? And these are strategies you need to learn from the beginning. And once you learn them from the beginning, you're going to see a huge difference in the way that you show up. You're going to see a huge difference in how your life is going to change, because you're going to be showing up in a mature fashion. You're going to be showing up as an individual who says, I don't care about the drama. I don't care about the crazy, useless sagas. I just want to rebuild my life. My focus is on my end goal. I'm so crystal clear on where I want to be and where I want to take my life that I'm not going to get sucked into this abyss and this world of craziness and this tornado of giant disasters, because your eye is always going to be on your goal. If you show up more maturely in this divorce process, you're going to have an easier time, and it's sort of going to set the stage for the other parent to also want to be as mature as you. Because when you start showing up in conversations or in meetings or discussions and you are as cool as a cucumber and you're talking to the other parent the way I'm talking to you right now, I can tell you that the other parent, however, even if they try to hide it, they're going to look at you and go, holy cow, how is this person, how are you showing up with such maturity, so calm, so clever? You have your shit together, your head is together, and I'm behind the scenes here, my head is all over the place and I'm about to explode. So by default, they're going to realize and they're going to see that you're showing up differently. And they're going to look like the moron. They're going to look like the loser who's showing up with like a kid in a candy store who doesn't get what they want. And they're going to look like the bad guy. They're going to look like the one who's so unstable and so unpredictable that they're going to realize on their own to some degree that, why am I showing up like this? Like, I really look bad. So maybe throughout a relationship and throughout time, they will start to discover themselves. And that is how we divorce. This is how we divorce the right way. So if you can imagine, of all the 5 key strategies that I gave you, so I'm just going to repeat them. Emotions are out. You got to think logically. You now have a new relationship of mother and father. How do you have this relationship? Third, don't show up with trying to screw the other parent or focusing on your divorce based on ego, power, or money. Fourth, you got to remember the 4 Ds of divorce. When you're divorcing and you're basing your decisions based out of desperation, denial, or despair, you will come back and regret your decision. Always. Always happens that way. And the 5th one, you have to take this opportunity of your divorce or your decision to divorce and the moment you're at right now to think about, how can I recreate my new life? How do I redesign it? How do I reinvent myself? How do I reintroduce the part of myself that got lost along the way? And if I decide to stay married, then how am I supposed to show up? What's missing? What's that missing ingredient that I just can't put my finger on, that I haven't quite figured out? Or on the other hand, if you do all this self-development and you do all this inner work and you figure yourself out and you come up with new answers as to why you got to this point and where do you want to go in your life, and you decide to divorce, then you need to think of, okay, based on everything that I know right now, how am I going to coexist with the other parent? How are we going to co-it all together? Communicate, coexist, co-parent. Everything here is all about coing together. How are you going to do that? You cannot get to the co part if you don't understand yourself. And this is why co-parenting is such a loose term. And although, however, it is amazing, it is so hard and difficult for people to even get to that point, because the 2 parents have to be ready, willing, and committed to co together. And they're usually not, because no one is being taught how to divorce. No one is being taught, why did your marriage really break down? No one's diving deep into the root causes of the whys and trying to find the solution which actually makes sense, so that they can take that and rebuild themselves. So just to reiterate, in the Divorce by Rose community, I hope I made it clear in my message today, we're not pro-marriage and we're not pro-divorce either. We are simply a group of coaches, experts, and professionals who have such a passion to share with you new ways of thinking, strategies, realistic solutions, new ways of looking at things, and ways for you to move forward with your life. So whether you decide to stay married or whether you decide to get divorced, it does not make a difference to us. We are not trying to push you or encourage you to go one way or another. We're just trying to help you make a logical decision. Should you stay married or should you stay divorced? How are we doing this? By teaching you everything that you need to know to either help you make yourself stronger and stay married, or make yourself stronger and prepare yourself for divorce. And this is how we differentiate from talking to your friends and family, because I can guarantee you that your friends and family are not talking to you and not telling you the things that I'm telling you right now. And they're definitely not going to tell you the things that our Divorce by Rose coaches are about to tell you. Why? Because people don't dig this deep. People will not go this far deep inside themselves to really understand what is the root cause and how do I find a solution that I'm not going to end up regretting. How do I find a solution that will make me feel better and help me move forward with my life? And this is what we do at Divorce by Rose. And the reason I created a Divorce by Rose and the reason that I'm passionate about it is because we have no idea what we're doing, and we're destroying our children in the process. Our children are our future leaders. If all of us divorce the wrong way, and if all of us are following each other's bad ideas and the bad patterns and following the nasty divorce process, we're all leading our children towards the same place. And what are we going to do when all our children are going to be working and taking care of us when we're all old and gray? What are we going to do? We're going to have a society of children who can't even have their lives together because their parents' divorce was such a nightmare and so difficult that they couldn't even develop into mature adults, because they couldn't even become the people they could have become because of all this craziness in divorce. And it's not like we're asking for you to dig for gold or do something like the impossible. This is so easy to do when you have the right system, the right support, and you're surrounded by the right people. And I'll tell you that when I was getting divorced, I was not surrounded by the right people, and I got the wrong advice. And the wrong advice came from my family and friends, not because they wanted to sway me in the wrong direction, but because they just didn't know anything. They'd never been divorced before. They don't understand. They were basing things on the reality, and I say that in quotes, the reality of, this is what I think the judge should say. This is what sounds most logical, like as if they had like a crystal ball and they were predicting the future and it made sense. And I didn't even realize that they were wrong. The whole time they were wrong. And I made so many mistakes. And that's when I stopped talking to them and about these things. And I said, you know what? I'm going to use your love and attention just to help me make sure that I'm surviving day to day. Love me, take care of me, make sure I'm taking care of my kids, make sure I shower, make sure I go to work, make sure I don't fall into a deep depression. Help me do the basics that a mother or father or sibling should do, but don't give me divorce advice. And I ended up publishing a book titled Unwanted Nasty Divorces. And in this book, I dedicated an entire chapter to saying, don't rely on your friends and your family to give you advice, especially if they've never been divorced before. It's like going to a florist because your back is hurting. You're going to go to a florist or you're going to go to a chiropractor. You're going to go to the specialist who deals with it. Same thing here. The florist may have been divorced or has a sister, an uncle, or a brother, sister's cousin's wife who got divorced, and she heard such stories, and down the line of, word to mouth and all that, she got a version of the story, and then she tells you what to do and gives you advice, and she's wrong because she's a florist and she doesn't know the situation and she doesn't know the details. Surround yourself with the people who can help you, who've been there, done that, and professionally are doing this work. And I can tell you that probably the reason why I spent $80,000 in legal fees over my 10-year divorce is because I went in blind as a bat. I had no idea what I was doing. I honestly naively thought divorce was simply about you go your way, I go my way. I don't want to be married to you anymore. And I thought this should be easy. You know, I didn't even understand what I was about to walk into, how naive and ignorant of me to think that way. But the truth is, we all think this way because we cannot predict something that we've never done before. Divorce is a lifelong transitional phase in your life. You're walking into an unknown territory. The only way you'll know what to do and the only way you can do things and divorce the right way is when you get the proper advice. You have legal questions, go to a lawyer. You have questions about your past, go to a therapist. You want to take your life from where you are today to where you want to be, and you want to figure out, how do I get from where I am to where I want to be? You go to coaches, experts, and professionals. There are so many out there who will have so much great advice and wisdom to share with you. It is a shame not to use their services or to hear what they have to say, because this is the reason you're going to fall into a very expensive divorce, is because when you try to save a buck and not go to the specialist and say, oh, I'm not going to spend $200 because I'm just going to figure it out on my own, I can guarantee you, because it happened to me and it happens to many others, you're going to end up spending probably $10,000, $15,000 until you realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then you look back and you say, oh my God, how big of a mistake I would have made. But if you would have gone to a specialist or a coach, they would have told you, hey, beware. If you follow path X, Y, and Z, beware, this is what can happen. So at least they planted the seed of thought in your mind so that you can carefully analyze and evaluate whether it makes sense or not. That is not something that I did because I just didn't have the people around me. I had a therapist and a lawyer. That's all I had. And I thought the therapist was going to be my answer until she broke up with me. And she said, Ravid, I can't help you anymore. Your issues are not coming from the past. Your issues are not fundamental. You're trying to figure out how to divorce, how to rebuild your life. And that's not something I can do. And I ended up being alone and really felt alone. And I felt like, is there anyone in this world that understands me? Is there anyone here who gets where I am? And I couldn't find people who did that. And that's exactly why my purposeful passion is to help parents now to understand, how do you divorce the right way? So I really hope this information was useful to you. I hope you learned something new. And before we go on to our coaches from Divorced by Rose to join us and to share their words of wisdom in key strategies to divorcing the right way, I just want to invite you that if you like what you're hearing, if you want more information like this, if you know someone who could really use this information and this new way of thinking, I'm going to have this recording in the Divorced by Rose community. It's going to be for free. And the reason I'm doing that is because I really want you to learn all these things. I want you to think strategically. I want you to think bigger than you're thinking right now. So whether you're contemplating divorce, whether you're newly separated, whether you're already divorced and you can't seem to get out of this mess, maybe one of the strategies that I've provided today are going to shed some light into your life, into your mind, body, or soul, and get you to understand that you need to think differently. You need to think outside of the box. And the thing is, we don't even know what outside of the box is because we've never been there before. We've never even seen this box before. So we don't even know what to look at or predict or think anymore. So if you would like to have access to this recording, to have access to the Divorced by Rose community for free, and to have access to this course, the 5 key strategies to divorcing the right way, which includes a whole bunch of small, short videos, which talk about what I talked about and then some by myself, and also made by our coaches, experts, and professionals in Divorced by Rose. All you need to do is one simple thing. Make sure you're following me. That's number 1. So click on the top left picture where it says Ravid. Make sure you're following me. Make sure you're setting the bell to always. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see my Instagram link. And once you go into my Instagram link, send me a message with DBR for Divorced by Rose. Or if you don't have Instagram or it's too complicated, just go in here in the back channel and send me a message, DBR. I'm not going to ask you any questions whatsoever. There's no strings attached here. It's totally free. The whole idea is that we're trying to get to as many families as possible from around the world to help you divorce the right way and stop this nasty divorce epidemic. So I hope this was useful to you, and I'm super excited now to hear the thoughts of Donna, Farah, and Juliet, which are amazing coaches on In Divorce by Rose and have taught and shared so much wisdom with parents in the Divorce by Rose community. And I know that they personally messaged me and told me how their life has changed because of something that they read on the app. And this is information that they never have seen anywhere else and never would have gone if they didn't spend thousands of dollars. So I'm very happy to introduce you to Donna James, who is one of our coaches. And Donna, maybe you can share with us your thoughts on some of the strategies, or maybe introduce yourself a little bit too. And then if you want to answer to anything that I had mentioned, please do so. Please feel free.
Thanks, Ravit. Hi, everyone. My name is Donna James, and I'm a certified coach, previously a domestic abuse survivor. And it was that experience of going through the breakup of my marriage, through the entire process and the divorce as well, that is what drove me to becoming a certified coach, because I had to completely rebuild my life, my confidence, and it was something that I saw was lacking in the area of someone who's going through an unhealthy, toxic, or abusive relationship or marriage. So that's how I became a coach. And what I do love about coaching is that it is forward thinking. The one thing that I didn't want to do is I didn't want to dwell on my past. I didn't want to, focus on that because I couldn't change it. But what I could change was the future. And I really agree with, everything that Ravit is saying is so true. And I wish that I had known this information. If I could have invested my money into a coach versus investing my money just all willy-nilly to a lawyer, I would have saved thousands of dollars, and I would have gotten the things that were important to me. Because as much as I was going to family and friends and I was getting advice from them, which was based on their thoughts and their emotions and their love for me, and it wasn't helpful or useful information. In fact, all it did was it just drained my resources. I got pulled in by their advice and made the mistakes. And most importantly, I got pulled in by my emotions as well. And what happened is I ended up running out of money with the lawyer before I could even really delve into and focus on the things that were going to be important to me, such as, getting some financial support throughout. And, it got to a point where it was a matter of, I don't have any more money. I can't do this. Had I known this information before, when I was starting to get a divorce, I could have literally saved thousands of dollars, and I could have focused on the things that were important instead of what was emotionally spurting up at the time. And, I do know that it is very common, and I see it a lot with my clients too, is that, they're focusing on all the negative things that their ex is doing. They're focusing on what people are saying. They're focusing on all these things that they have no control over. And the one thing that I, always tell them is you've got to focus on the things that you can control, because you're going to waste so much time, energy, and money on trying to control those things. And you never will. So, the one thing that I strongly encourage everyone is when you're considering separation and divorce, is approach it as you would with work or with your business. You want to sit down, prioritize, and make a plan of what's important to you. What is your focus? What is it you want to be when you move forward from the situation, and plan? And, I know for my situation, because it was, a very abusive marriage, I really didn't get to a point where I had to contemplate if I was going to get back with him or not, because I needed to leave because everything was escalating, and it was for the safety of myself and my children. And I didn't make that plan. I didn't even realize that that was something that I should be doing. And I put all my financial resources and energy into the things that I thought was important, which was a lawyer. That was the number one thing that I was told, and a therapist. And the therapist was wonderful. She was able to help me with certain things, but there was that gap of where do I go next? How do I move forward? And, that was really important. That was something that I should have done and I should have planned. So it's very important that we take the emotion out of it. We take the heartbreak. We take the desire to get revenge from them. It's important that we take out any anger and, despair that we're feeling. And it's important that we take that into plan, take those emotions out, think of things logically. Would you go into work, into a meeting, and start crying and start getting all emotional about all these different things? Or do you go in with a plan and go in with something that you can work on, something that you can think about logically and get done? And when you approach it from an emotional way, you're not going to get that. And I really wish that I had known that before I started the process. Fortunately, I started to realize it as I was going through it. But at that point, it was too far gone. And, that's what I try and teach my clients is that, especially when you're dealing with someone who's, abusive, toxic, a narcissist, they're going to try and draw you into all these different directions so that you have no idea where you're going. And so it's really important that you use that time to take back control of yourself, your emotions. They can't take back control when you decide you're going to control your emotions, your feelings, and your desires. But if you let them, they will, and it's going to cost you dearly. So I hope that helps. I hope people see the value in something such as coaching and this Divorce by Rose app. It is amazing, and the ability to remain anonymous is the best part of it as well. So I hope that helps. My name is Donna, and I'm done.
Oh, thank you, Donna. That was very enlightening. One thing that I can tell you is that, I laugh, but it's really not funny. That when I was going through my divorce, I thought I was so certain that I had all the answers. I was so certain that I knew everything and I could predict everything. And I knew my ex and I knew how he would behave and I knew what he would do and he wouldn't do. And I can tell you that everything I didn't think he was going to do were the things that he did do. And everything that I thought about him was not even true anymore because people change. And especially when you get divorced, people change and you start to see a whole new version of this person. Could be better, could be worse, who knows? But it's very, very hard to predict and it's very hard to know in advance what is going to come. And I can tell you that even now, after 10 years into my divorce, I'm still learning things on a regular basis. And I probably will continue to learn for the rest of my life. And the reason is because we're all trying to figure ourselves out. We're all human beings trying to figure out life and trying to figure out, where do we go from here? And it's all a question of evolution. And so that's what makes it very exciting is that you're always surrounded by new content and new wisdom and new ways of looking at things. And you're like, oh, never really thought about it that way. That's really interesting. So thank you, Donna. Thank you for sharing that. Juliet, Dr. Juliet is Marciano is another one of our coaches on Divorce by Rose. Perhaps you can also introduce yourself and let us know what your thoughts are about the 5 strategies or any others you may have.
Thanks, Ravi. And I just want to say, Ravi and Donna, what you've contributed is so important already, just what people are getting through from this call. My name is Dr. Juliet Marciano. I'm a mindset coach for parents and a certified parent coach. I'm also a retired pediatrician and a single parent of 4 young adults. And I work with parents around the world who are facing family challenges such as divorce or parenting a child with physical, mental, behavioral, emotional, or learning difference. I actually became part of the Divorce by Rose community because I have seen over the years the lasting suffering that divorce inflicts on children and families when parents just don't have access to the guidance and the support and the information that they need as they're divorcing and redefining their families. I believe that it is never too late to help your family, but if you get the help that you need before before you become overwhelmed and stressed out and exhausted, and before you make a lot of mistakes, you can definitely avoid many of the circumstances that cause pain in your family for years and for generations to come. I think that most people don't realize when they start to divorce that the divorce process can take years. And even when the legal and the financial aspects have been settled, the parenting aspects continue and evolve over time. I work with parents not just on co-parenting issues, but on parenting issues, because you're not just working with your co-parent, you actually are in charge of parenting these children. I think that most people don't realize that after divorce, if you get the right help with professionals and with time, most adults end up fine, even in the most devastating divorce experience, because as Ravit mentioned and Donna said, you can, in the divorce process, you get to redefine and rediscover who you are. But your children are actually having a different reality. They're dealing with their own feelings and experiences, but they're also suffering as a result of whatever stress and experiences you're having. Your children sometimes have broken hearts. I mean, I have heard that from children. My heart is broken. We tend to think of divorce as leaving a partner in a romantic relationship, but our children often end up with broken hearts too, because their life is changing drastically. Sometimes they lose their family home. Sometimes they lose contact with one parent. Sometimes they lessen contact with both parents if they're now living in two different households. Sometimes they lose contact with extended family, grandparents, cousins, friends of extended family. Their whole life changes and they don't understand it. They don't understand it because they're not privy to all the behind the scenes things that have been going on in that relationship, nor should they be. But understand that this decision that makes perfect sense to you might be very shocking and out of the blue for your children, and that can be very painful and disruptive. I also want to let parents know that when you divorce, it affects everyone in your family, but not everyone is affected in the same way and to the same degree and on the same time frame. So if you have more than one child, you may be at different stages of helping those children heal and process that experience. As the leader of your family, you do have the added responsibility of guiding and supporting your children through that time, but you also have the power to set the stage for a more favorable outcome. I know that it's hard to do really great parenting when you're divorcing, but that is really when your children need it the most. So I do feel like it is important to get help early on, and then throughout the years, even as new things come up, because there are ways to minimize the trauma to your children and to help them have their own positive outcome. First, you definitely, if possible, want to minimize the conflict with your co-parent and help your children to maintain a healthy connection and relationship with both parents. As Ravit so clearly mentioned, you are now in a business relationship with your co-parent. Your business is raising and parenting your children. But with your children, you're helping them with their emotions. So you need to be able to process and work through your own feelings and your own emotions, and then support them through their emotional experiences too. Your children are always learning from you, and they take in what they see you do and how you respond to things and what energy you're bringing to experiences, and they're watching you. So if you learn and take action to help yourself, like you're doing here, you model for them the things that they can do to help themselves. I think it is very important through divorce, like any challenging time in life, that you do want to find a way to stay calm and accept that life is uncertain. You'll deal with things as they come up, and then you focus more on the things that you can do and what is in your control. But obviously, those things are not easy to do when you're in the midst of a really disruptive time like divorce. And that's why it is so important to get the support and the help that you need from people who can guide you down a good path. Your family and friends are very emotionally involved. Often they have very strong feelings about, quote, what you should do to your ex-spouse. They want to have a lot of vengeance. They want to make that other person suffer. They want to make them, quote, pay for what they did to you. That is not going to be helpful moving forward in a co-parenting relationship. And to be honest with you, even if you weren't parents, you want both partners to end up well after the divorce. You want the children to end up well. And when there's a lot of anger and animosity and vengeance, it's very hard for families to move forward after divorce. As you're helping your children, you really do want to be able to just sit with them and support them through their feelings without feeling the need to fix things or take away their pain or make it right. That does have immense value to your children because pain is a part of life and they need to realize that, and they need to know that they'll be okay getting through painful experiences. You'll support them through it and they're not alone. And that not alone part is so important because so many children grow up and then tell people, I felt so alone during my parents' divorce. One parent left and the other parent was not available. They were going to lawyers' meetings, mediation sessions. They were stressed out. I heard them crying in their room at night. They were always on the phone with people. They just weren't available for me. Often your children feel very alone and abandoned even when they're in the house with you. So if you can just be with them and let them know, I'm here for you. I know that this hurts. I'm here for you. We will get through it. It's going to be okay. And that is very important. I want you to know that if you're here on this call and you're making plans to separate and divorce and you've already started talking to people, be very mindful of the fact that you don't want your children to hear this information from other people. So keep it private as much as you can, and please let other people know to keep it private. And even though you're cautious in your own household that they can't overhear things, other people might not be that cautious. So you really want to be very mindful as you're talking about it that your kids don't hear about it from other people. And I also want to let you know that you're going to make mistakes. This is a long, ongoing process. And as much as we're telling you what you should do to make this good for your children, it's very hard. Sometimes you're not going to be able to take the high road. You're going to not be able to put on a brave face. Sometimes you're going to say and do things and react out of stress in ways that you're not proud of. And that does not make you a bad parent. So don't judge yourself harshly. You are going through a challenging time. But if you mess up with your kids, apologize to them, try and make it right, and then get the help that you need so that those mistakes are lessened. And for parents going through this, it's hard to believe and appreciate this now, but really, like most life-defining experiences, this parenting through divorce and after divorce not only does present enormous challenges, but it does present incredible opportunities. And if you get the help that you need and you can do this in a certain way, you will be given the opportunity to guide your family through a very difficult time, to strengthen your family connection, to nurture your children's resilience. And for most of you, again, with some time and work, you can achieve personal growth and transformation. And that's really what all of us in the Divorced by Rose app want for you. So I hope that you join us on the app. I think there are incredible opportunities there for people. If you're not sure of your divorce decision, you still have a place on that app because you have access to these selected professionals. And I just want to remind you that when you're in this room, just follow all of the coaches so that you can be informed when we come on stage in different rooms so that you can hear what we have to say. This is Dr. Juliet Marciano, and I'm out.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Juliet. You know what? And like, remember I said before that after 10 years, I'm still learning things. So today I just picked up on the fact that you said children still feel alone and abandoned even when they're at home with you. They might still need someone to talk to. That is something that I'm even going to be diving deeper with my kids because you know what? I think it's always great that they have someone to talk to. And sometimes as a parent, we're in front of them, we see them smiling and happy, but we don't really see how they're feeling. So thank you for sharing that and for planting that seed in my mind. That is definitely something that I value. Great advice. Thank you so much. If you guys liked what Juliet or Donna have said so far, please do follow them as well. Make sure you're also following me and you're setting it to always because we're opening rooms right now Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, but we're starting to open up many others at different times of the day. So if you want to make sure that you're always, up to par and you know when we're opening a room, best to follow us, okay? So next is Farah Ali, who is also a coach in Divorced by Rose. Would love to hear your thoughts and would love to hear your words of wisdom as well that you could share with us.
Thanks, Ravi, and thanks everyone for your contributions. It's been really amazing to listen to all the experience and wisdom that's been shared already. So just to give a little bit of an idea about me, I I'm a clarity coach, so I work with techniques that help with understanding your emotions and getting clarity through that processing. And I think it's really important to the discussion today, and so I'm really excited to be able to talk about it. And I am a certified relationship coach. I work with couples that are having issues in their relationship or thinking about when to stay or when to go, or basically, if you have any emotional aspect to a problem, then that's something that with the kind of processing I do, it's really excellent for that. So I think that that really relates to the subject that we're having today and to divorce in general. And I am really excited about the quality of this community and what it can bring people, because there is a diversity of voices and there's a lot of information to take on. So it's nice to get different angles and different perspectives on it. So that's really amazing. In terms of the five keys, I'm going to start out with like an analogy that I use a lot of the time, and it was where my journey began. And it was this idea like, if you ever think of a time, and it's probably for anyone in the midst of either getting a divorce, just having a divorce, or thinking about having a divorce, it's that's probably the moment right now. But like any moment in your life where you're so stressed out, it's like so amazingly visible that you can like see it on your face, and you like people can see it and they can tell that it's there, and it's so apparent that like people around you, your family, colleagues, friends of yours, even maybe professionals that are telling you like, calm down, just calm down. And that was happening to me, like, and if you're that stressed out, you're thinking to yourself, oh, there's so much going on, I don't even know how to like. And so that's kind of, I think that's the conundrum that we face when we're in this situation and we're getting this great advice, and it can be really overwhelming and challenging to follow it. And so I'm just going to go through the five keys that were shared by Ravi and talk about some of the ways that emotional processing would help it. Well, the first one obviously makes sense. You want emotions out of the equation, is what she said. But the reality is, we are emotional beings. Our brains are wired to give us even body sensations that are based on emotions before we have a thought around it. And so sometimes it's better to just go, yes, I know I need to make decisions rationally and have emotions out of the equation for my decision making, but what does that translate to? And what it translates to is having a chance to really dive into the emotions that are overriding you so they don't run the show. And so once you've processed whatever's coming up, and we kind of develop these playlists, these looping thoughts, and every time we think of one thing, it'll ping us to that thought, and we'll go into a chain reaction of how we think of things. That kind of thought process can actually be stopped with good emotional processing. And then you get to the space where you have the room to not react in the moment, and then you can take emotions out of the equation. So that's the way that it gets done, at least with the kind of processing I would do with somebody. And I think it's extremely important, but it's not enough to go, okay, I'm not going to be emotional today and hope and pray. Sometimes it works, but a lot of the time it's not enough, especially when we're hijacked and we're kind of like driven by all these emotions that are happening in the moment, which is the case in something as stressful as going through a divorce or thinking about it. So to detach from the emotions was the second thing, which was like the 4Ds. So you've got these decisions coming from desperation, denial, despair, which were ideas that Ravi shared. And I think that pretty obviously, when you look at decisions that are based on those mental states, those are emotional states. And again, the idea would be detaching from those emotions. And so, what I would recommend is that if you're having moments of desperation, moments of denial, or moments of despair, that you look into those, because that's information for you that, oh, why am I getting desperate in the first place? And understanding that and doing that exploration, or why do I have this sense of needing to deny it? And that can lead you to a better understanding. And it's not, sometimes you can do it with just mindfulness or cognitive processing, but emotional processing using the kind of tools that I would provide people and teach in the app, in the course that I'll be putting together, are things that will help you to understand what's happening on those levels and understand it in a way where it doesn't have to be where you go to. And so then it's easier to make decisions because it's not like you're telling yourself, okay, I feel desperate, but I'm going to ignore my desperation and still try to be logical. You can get to a space where you go, I feel desperate, let me explore this desperation and come to the other side and not feel desperate anymore. And then it's easier to make those decisions. And that's not part of the picture in the way it was before. And then when you look at this ego, power, money decisions, which was part of her third key, again, those are decisions that are very emotional. So they're coming from these rote, very survival based instincts that we've developed and built over time. And it's really important to work with those emotions, to work through them so that we can come from our higher self and we're not driven by having to have these reactions, which are very, very fundamental in us, especially during divorce, where there is a survival instinct happening. And the other thing, key number 4, I thought was really great. And I think it's really important to have, and that was this idea of creating and recreating a vision for yourself, thinking not in the past, but in the future. So not only are we going to go through these kind of keys of the emotions that are happening for us in the moment and are probably grounded in the past, but you want to build emotions and connect with emotions from the future and get that kind of processing going so that you have something to look forward to. But the other part of that that's interesting to look at is how much of looking forward scares us, or whatever the emotions are happening for us as we look into the future. And that's things that we can actually process and deal with so that we can step into the unknown and be okay with uncertainty without it hijacking us and taking us into a place where we'd rather not move forward, or we'd rather loop on the stories that we're looping on than think about what we have to build. And it can be really daunting, but it is really possible to let go of even fears and other emotions that are coming up for the vision you want to create so that you have the space to actually go forward and create it. And then the final one was this communicating and co-parenting and coexisting. And yet again, I think that there's a big sort of aspect to this that's very emotional, because there's the strategic part, and I think that that's been talked about a lot, as well as the emotional part. But I think the emotional part, I just want to underline it, because to do those things, you have to create new identities. You have to have space for other people and their way of doing things. And it can be a really tough, the interface can be really tough. And again, there's emotional processing there that can be done that can really transform that. And when I talk about emotional processing, maybe that's a little bit vague, but what we do with the kind of processing I do, what's called emotional freedom techniques, is we start with where you're reacting. We look at it in a way that calms you down so that you're not stressed about it. And you can see the inside of it. There's actually research showing that it works very well for this kind of thing, and it's used and it's applied in a variety of ways, from things to like high performance, so kind of looking at your future vision, that kind of thing. You get athletes using it, Olympians using it, that kind of thing, to the most extreme sort of PTSD kind of situations. So it can help with anything that has that emotional edge. And you work through it, you understand the influences, and then you get this kind of separation from it. And that gives you the space to deal with things in a better way. So I think that, this is a really important conversation to have. And it's really a conversation about emotions. I have a bias, but I think that that's always true. I mean, strategies are equally important, but without the emotional agility to handle them and apply them and react to them and take on things, it can leave us knowing what to do, but still not able to do it. And that makes us feel worse. And so I think that, one of the fundamental things really is to start managing your emotions first and processing it and getting to the place where you can handle whatever it is that you need to take on, be it being there for your kids or being there for your divorce in the way that needs to happen. I think I'll stop here. This is Farah, and I'm done speaking.
Oh, thank you so much, Farah. That was really, really helpful. I love everything that we said today, and I know you guys are loving it too. I'm getting some great feedback, and I even have a couple of amazing thoughts that I just wanted to share. And someone said, "Oh my God, I wish you told me this years ago." And that is something that, I wish I also knew this. Like I always say, I wish I knew me 10 years ago. Like I wish I know now what I should have known then, because it would have saved me a whole load of time and money and stress. Someone else said, I love what you're doing here. He says, been divorced for 8 years and spent $150,000 on my divorce and custody. So definitely somebody who would have needed some guidelines and some direction. That is for certain. So I hope that this, if you have any questions, please feel free to send me messages. We can continue those messages, in the background, and hope that you can visit us again tomorrow and any other day here on Clubhouse. We're hosting daily rooms, and we love doing it, and we're super passionate about it because we love sharing our wisdom and our experiences and our knowledge to help families from far and wide. That is our passion, that is our mission, and that's what makes us, super excited to wake up in the morning. So I thank you all for being here with us. I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for taking all this in and making a beautiful, positive difference in your lives today. I wish you all a wonderful day that matters. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.